You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Right, Chris.
Alrighty, how are you doing? There I am. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello, wherever you are in the world. One of those, well, anyway, one of them will apply to you. This is LTIDT from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. If you are and you want to join in, get your thoughts in the comments. If you're watching it on catch up on YouTube, you can always add your thoughts to the comments below. And if you're listening via podcast, whichever your favourite platform is, thank you so very much for lending us your ears. And of course, if you want to follow us on any of our socials, LTID TV, simple as that. Simple as that. Look, if you're a Leicester fan, and before we start the main show this evening, which is a review show of the weekend, obviously concentrating on the Leicester match, if you are a Leicester fan these last few weeks, it's been pretty shitty. Let's be honest with you. We've lost 3 heroes. I don't know that that's the right word or not, but we've lost 3 players, managers that we have bonded very well with. First of all, Shaky went, who obviously we know for what happened while he was at that club. None of us, I don't think, would ever think that we would see it in our lifetimes at all. And we lost Shaky. We then, a few weeks ago, we lost Sven. Whilst we didn't have particularly, well, I suppose it depends how you gauge success, but he kept us up when we were struggling. And let's be honest with you, it brought a feeling to the club. The buzz that was around the club was probably a bigger buzz than when Enzo came in. You know, Enzo would come in as a Champions League winner. Sven had come in. Yes, he'd had a bit of a bad time at Knox County in Mexico. But look, he was an England manager. He was a gent, like I said to you many times. I've got a signed picture of him up on my wall. I've met him. He was a gentleman. And then obviously over the weekend on Friday, we lost, again, a player that wasn't with us that long, but I think one that we all remember, Sol Bamba. Signed, as it happened, for the club by Sven. It's funny how these things kind of tie in. But it's not often that a player that is with the club for less than 2 seasons is usually fondly remembered by the fans of that club. Esteban Cambiasso is one of them. And I think Sol Bamba is another. Like I say, he was signed by Sven in January 2011. And the sad thing is that Sol's last post on social media was sending condolences regarding Sven. And Sol also had cancer, and he went so quickly afterwards. 39 years old. I mean, I'm sat here and 63, and yes, I've had my health issues, but I'm still battling on at 63. 39 years old. It's too young. It is way too young. But look, Sven signed him in January 2011. Undisclosed fee, but it was rumoured to be £250,000, which back in the day when we were in the second tier would have been a lot of money. Ericsson loved this guy. I mean, Ericsson actually compared him to Franz Beckenbauer. That's how highly he thought of him. And who can remember, who can forget his debut for the club? I think it was virtually his first touch of the ball, and he put it in the net against Manchester City in the FA Cup, a game which we would ultimately draw 2-2. They had the likes of Carlos Davis, Frank Milner, Joe Hart. You know, there was a big it was a big team. Andy King got out of the one. I mean, I was watching the the highlights. Well, I said the highlights. There was a couple of minutes of that game earlier before we came on here, and the commentator was saying most of the highlights for Leicester were Sol Bamba highlights. I'm still trying to think of what an age. But Ericsson, of course, was sacked. Pearson was appointed. Sol Bamba I think he went off to the African Cup of Nations, and Nigel Pearson brought in Wes Morgan. Now, I mean, Sol Bamba left the club. Wes Morgan obviously would go on to great things, and as we know, he made that centre back position his own. And he would later express, funnily enough, Sol Bamba, he would later express his sadness at leaving Leicester City. It was something that he regretted happening. He would have liked to have stayed. And like I say, speaks volumes of the man with everything he was going through, that he put out a post to Sven, and that was his last social media post. In June 2012, he joined Trabzonspor having left Leicester. He went to Trabzonspor in Turkey, and I think he was at Leeds as well and Cardiff. He's been around, but like I say, 17 months he was with us, 17 months, and I think we all have fond memories of him. I think Sven said you could not walk in to Leicester on a Monday morning and not be cheered up by that smile. Passed away on Friday, the 30th of August, aged just 39. R.I.P. Sol Bamba, 1985 to 2024. Brad, hello.
Hello, Chris. First of all, I just want to say lovely words you've said about Sol Bamba there, and
Thank you.
I was one of the few thousand that were fortunate enough to be there when Sol Bamba scored 46 seconds into his Leicester debut against the oil churning Manchester City. And to think we nearly actually won the replay. At their place, I was lucky enough to go to both games. Sorely missed. You have these instant fan favourites. To name a few more recent that people might remember. Because sometimes you get players like Vardy, who could go on about and go on about and go on about. You get players like Mahrez, who obviously were only here for 3 or 4 seasons, but still in today's longevity of the game, they go down as heroes and players like that. But players that probably weren't either the manager's favourite, weren't here that long, but were always an instant fan favourite. You had Sol Bamba, you had Bruno Berner, you had Martin Waghorn. Players like these sometimes leave more of an impression on the heart and the memories they leave you with than certain players that maybe are here for a while but really aren't that fond of. I can name 2 of them. I'm not going to for the sake of it, but you could probably guess one of them.
Oh yes.
You could probably guess them both.
I mean, scoring that quickly on your not only club debut but your home debut is you're always going to be a fan favourite after that. And it's true what Sven said. I mean, I don't think I ever saw him when he hadn't got a smile on his face.
No, and you mentioned it at the start. People always go on, and I don't like it too much. I kind of get where they're coming from when they say it. People always say that Pearson's side is the one that won the Premier League, but realistically, they still needed a manager to guide them to it. You could, though, argue that Sven laid the foundations in the brickwork, didn't he, with some of the players that were there? I mean, In another universe, Chris, we would have signed David Beckham and Rivaldo. Do you remember them links we had? They were brilliant links. There.
If it
Was a
hadn't
fun
been for Stroppy Spice, who didn't want to come to Leicester, who knows what would have happened.
Exactly,
But,
Chris. It just kind of gave, we'd kind of been a bit stale. We'd had obviously the League One days as well, and we we're kind of in a bit of a transition period. We obviously had that awful stint under Paulo Sousa as well. So bad that he didn't even last. In fact, his last game, we lost 4-3 to Norwich. Fright scored a hat-trick, and he was sacked afterwards. Probably his best game he had in charge of us. So even though he didn't bring any success in terms of reaching the playoffs or anything like that, he brought the spirit back to Leicester that was really missing. And players like Sol Bamba were key to that, Chris. Because like you said, prior to that, we spent a season in League One. We all remember, as much as we try and scrub them from our brains, the Craig Levein era, which ultimately became the 17 manager area that ended with Holloway, who I think harshly gets criticised by Leicester fans for that period.
I think
considering he didn't have a pot to do it proverbially in, you know what I mean? So,
and he got Blackpool promoted, so he kind of knew what he was. And again, as I always say with Holloway, he wanted to come to us.
Yeah, again, and I think in a different time maybe he would have been more successful of a manager, but that whole era was epitomised by managers and players of that caliber that were at the club. Even your 65-year-old Darius Vassell putting on a kit for us was something we never thought we'd see, was it? Players like that being at the club.
I think as well. Yeah, look, Holloway. I always say, don't I? We were talking just before we came live. Square pegs in square holes, but something that Holloway probably wasn't able to do. But look, I think actually going down, I don't think had we not gone down that season, I don't think we would have won the Premier League.
No, things always happen for a reason. And if you went back in time and, it's like, let's say, the butterfly effect, isn't it? You change one thing, no matter how insignificant it could be, and it could change the whole outcome of what precedes it,
Yes.
So,
that had we stayed up that season and Southampton gone down, which would have been the other scenario, we would have still been fourth from bottom, and we would have just carried on in the same vein, I think.
Yeah, we'd probably be a lower to mid-table championship side. We'd have been classed as the posh Millwall, wouldn't we? Because they're always that. So you know what I mean.
Posh Millwall. We've been called a few things in our time at Leicester. I don't think Posh Millwall has ever been one of them. But look, right, let's get on and say R.I.P. They say things come in threes, so hopefully for everybody else's sake.
Yeah, that's your flipping lot, football world. Take it and leave it.
Yes. R.I.P. to all Craig, Sven, and Sol. Right, the weekend's football matches. Let's bring them up. And I've got to say, I hate this prediction shit. Oh God!
I'm saying nothing, mate. I'm saying nothing.
You ragged 3 points. Did you get 3 points? I don't know. Yes, you did, because you went 3-0 for Liverpool Man United, didn't you?
No, I got 3 points for the Man City result, I think.
Manchester City. Oh yes, 3-1.
Yes, because you was hoping for another goal.
Yeah, I was, because I had 4-1. Yes.
Yeah.
What did you go for Liverpool then?
I think I went 4-0 and you went 3-1. So we both got screwed out by a goal either end.
Yes, that one. We did.
Still, somehow, even on a bad week, I outscored you. But there we go. We don't talk about it.
To be honest with you, look, mate. Stevie Wonder could play football and outscore me at the moment, so I wouldn't claim that as any big victory. But look, let's go through the games then as they happen. Arsenal Brighton. Wow. I don't know if you've seen any of the highlights, because I was trying to work out the sending off. I mean, it was Rice, wasn't it? And he obviously got boiled over something. I didn't see the first booking, but did he just? I don't even think he kicked the ball away, did he?
I've got to be honest, Chris. I did not see the incident. I was just so, not to sound horrible to Brighton, but I was too busy being disappointed with Arsenal conceding the title after 3 games, because that's it now. They've dropped another. Yeah, that's a point that Man City will turn into 3. This is a game where it's all well and good, beating a, we know right now they could beat a Tottenham, they can beat a Liverpool. If they're dropping points to Brighton with the machine that is Man City, that's it. What congratulations, you're fighting it out for second place, because it's just not an ideal thing to do. And I mean, credit to Brighton, already proven me very well wrong with their managers. I think that's 7 points they've got. Joint second with Arsenal. I think maybe even second on goal difference. I don't know, but I don't know what Rice did in that situation, and it baffles me that he's done that he's reacted and got himself sent off, because why would you do that for? Why would you put yourself in a situation to knowing you're going to get sent off?
Yeah, I mean, if you're already on it, I'm guessing, like I said, and to be honest with you, I haven't watched Match of the Day yet since I've come back. And John's made a very good, I love John's comment there. I thought the Championship was hard to predict, but the Premier League is proving just as difficult. It so is. I thought I'd be better at this. Honestly, you're away for one season and everything changes. But no, I haven't watched Match of the Day because basically Leicester haven't been good enough to watch on it. And I saw some of clips. It's on, but I don't concentrate on it. And I saw it looked like he'd got a second yellow, because the yellow card came out, but then the red, and then they brought a red out. So I'm presuming it was a second yellow. But he didn't even look like he kicked the ball away. He was on the ground. But I mean, look. When we come on to Leicester, Cooper's had his say about referees this weekend. Yes, it was a weird one, that, but like you say, Arsenal, I don't know. Do you think that well? Look, Man City, when we'll come on to them in a second, are looking strong, but Brighton doing what Brighton are doing and proving us all wrong with a young manager from America.
Yeah, they are, again, already proving me wrong. I thought this was going to be like some wonderwall gamble that that maybe it would pay off. But today is going to be the day that we talk about Arsenal's title race.
I thought you were going to burst into an Oasis song then.
Well, the hints were there. I was hoping. Yeah, I was going to see how many references I could get in. That was my subtle little hint there, and I was making a few of them references. I mean, just to add one more to the thing. I hope when the season ends and Arsenal finish the season, I hope they don't look back in anger at this result.
Yes, yeah.
You knew I was going with
now, because that's about as far as my Oasis knowledge goes. And it was Declan Rice was 2 yellows. I'm just looking here, but I can't find any information as to why that was. But you
can say that Arsenal hit the wonder wall that is Arsenal. That is Brighton.
God, please.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you've been with me too long. This is what it is. So Arsenal, it's early days, but not they could well have started straight away. Brighton, well done, Brighton, and carry on doing it. I like the smaller clubs doing well, and I hope the manager proves us all wrong. And then we came across Brentford against Southampton, and like I say, I was watching the Southampton one of the fans' channels before this game, and they were very, very confident. But I mean, Southampton, they were sorry. They really were. They were absolutely. I think if we do go down, it's going to be in 19th, and it was an easy win for Brentford in the end.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if there's any games that we talked about it after the Villa game. Okay, Fulham a little bit disappointed in that, because you felt like that was something we could have got something out of. but on the collective, you go, 2 European sides, 2 very good sides. It would have been nice to have got more than a point off either of them. We obviously got a point off Spurs. It would have been nice to have got a point off Villa as well, but it wasn't to be. But the next 2 games are the most critical for us in terms of if we're going to stand a chance of staying up. We've got to get. I say we have to get 6 points. You said a minimum has to be 4. I think, given our situation ahead, we're probably going to need them extra 2 points.
Yeah.
I'd take 4, but I'd want 6 most definitely. I think it's vital. Anything less than that is a worry. Southampton would have fought that against Brentford. The whole Ivan Toney thing, they haven't been too brilliant this season in getting going. You'd have thought this was a game that if you were going to look at their previous outings and say, oh, well, they're so signed to this. If they was going to do it in a game in the early stages, it had to be this one. And they just look like the side that lost to Cardiff before they played us in the Championship, Chris, and admitted defeat, didn't they? Because I'm never one for trying to say managers out the door after the first couple of weeks of the season, but for me, Chris, he's already Russell Martin. I think would have been sacked had they not won the playoffs, and I don't think he's got much of a timeline left at Southampton if this is how things are going to continue. Because we could talk about our point selection getting cut. That could effectively cut us adrift. Southampton could find themselves if they wait until November, December time, could already be drift by the time they pull the trigger. It'll be interesting to see how they respond to this. And it was a great result for Brentford, who were flying high themselves, actually, to be fair.
I mean, in this game, Southampton, as the away team, had 63% possession. They had 6 shots on goal, which was only 1 less than Brentford, 6 target. 18 shots attempted, which is only 2 less than Brentford. 8 corner kicks compared to 2 for Brentford. And yet, despite all that, they managed to lose it.
Well, yeah, again, I like to use them to my advantage just to kind of make a point against you and just to be a knob, really, sometimes more than anything. But this is all the proof you need that stats don't win your games. That, in fact, the only stat that does win your game is the one that's got the number next to your little team's abbreviation. And if it's more than theirs, you're going to get more reward for it. So, look, it kind of a little bit what we said, what I was thinking when I was seeing it come up against Villa. I said, they kept putting it up against us, and I think for the majority of that first half, I'm not sure how, but apparently we had 50% possession. I was thinking, that's great, we're doing sod all with it. We'll get on to that a bit more later, so I'll leave it there. But you know what I mean, Chris? It's all well and good saying, oh yeah, but we had this, we had that. Sometimes that's just masking the problems that you actually had, because we've sat here before and gone, oh well, we had 10 chances to their 9, and then we realised we only had 2 on target. And remember, one of them was a P roller off Daka's shin, and the other one just about made the goalkeeper move half an inch. You know what I mean? So just because they're having chances on target doesn't mean they're great chances. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Do you remember a certain Mr. Bergwijn and what he did to
Stephen Bergwijn, the guy who absolutely crippled us inside 3.5 minutes and then nearly signed for this window, but apparently never did.
Well, I must admit, I thought he was at Bournemouth when I looked at the scores. I mean, Everton, and I hate to say this because it happened to us, but I don't think we were 2-0 up, were we? We were 2-1 or something. But
we were 1-0 up.
Or was it 1-0 up and we lost 2-1? Right. Well, Everton then, I can say this because that was worse for Everton. 2-0 up, right? 92 minutes on the clock. Well, if I can go back and go 86 minutes on the clock and they're 2-0 up, how are you losing a game 3-2 from that position?
Well, I mean, I made a comment on our post-match when we kind of brought it up, didn't I, Chris? The last time a team threw away a 2-0 lead in the latter stages of the game, it was actually, ironically, it was a team in blue that came back and won it, and that was us against Villa. And we
Yes.
all know what happened to both teams that season. One went right to the top, and one went all the way down. Um, and I don't like to say this because we don't. I know Everton annoy us a little bit, and we feel like they're a team a bit like that Newcastle team that they maybe need to go down. I know probably financially crippled them. I'm not saying that, but you know what I mean. We talk about them being on the trap door, and eventually, surely that door's got to go for them.
Yeah.
And I suppose in a horrible way. And I'm sorry, James, if he's going to pop in or watch us back, but that's very damning. That is very damning because we talked about that season naturally a lot, and we have done ever since that season. And a lot of people say the Man City game was the turning point for them. For me, the Villa game where we were 2-0 down and losing 3-2 was laying the foundations for how both team seasons would go, because Leicester never knew when they were beat and Villa never knew when they secured the points. This result does that to a team. I'm sorry, it will. And this, add them to the list with Southampton. If we are to stay up, these two are giving us all the mentality and the right to go, hold on a minute, we can stay up even with minus 10 points, because we've only got to find one more team to be better than, because we've already got two teams worse than us. And I would go out on a limb and say after the first three games, Chris, we are far better than Southampton and Everton are right now.
Yes, we are showing that, but we'll come on to that. The thing that worries me for Everton fans, and I don't know whether like you say, John is in or not, but -8 after 3 games.
Yeah, it's not good either. It's not good either. And I mean, you might look at that and say, yeah, well, Ipswich are minus whatever after their games. They played Liverpool and Man City, and
Yes.
got a draw against Fulham, something we couldn't do. So to them they'll say, yeah, well, it balanced itself out. We might have been -7 before we played that, but we're -7 with a point on the board. These clubs are, like you said, they're conceding goals left, right, and centre, and they've got nil power on the board. So, if, like we said, you normally want to see where they are in game week 8, game week 9 sort of area. That's where you normally get a feel for how teams are going to go. But first 3 games, which is all we can judge them off, Chris, it's looking good for Leicester in the nicest way possible, and it's not looking very good for Everton.
No, it says here Everton stunned by late Bournemouth comeback. I don't think stunned is the word. I mean, 3 goals, like I say, 86 minutes. I mean, if they were 2-0 up at half time and they conceded 3 in the second half, I get that. And fair play. Look, let's not take anything away from Bournemouth. Fair play to Bournemouth. They've lost Solanke, where let's say, I know you said one hit wonder, but he was doing well at Bournemouth.
Yeah,
they've lost their main striker, and they still come back and pop 3 goals up in 6 minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anyone says, "Oh, well," you can't say, this late comeback could set the pace for the season. Let me take you Leicester fans back in time for our own painful memory. And my dad, if he can hear me, he will love me going on about this story because he always used to bring this up. Do you remember a time we was at Molineux, Chris, and we was actually doing okay at the point of the season, and we were 3-0 up at half time.
Yes.
I was a young lad, as I say back then. I was texting my dad going, we're 3-0 up, you're shit, you're going down there. 45 minutes later, football karma really had its way with me. We lost the game 4-3.
Yes.
So we didn't just throw away a 2-goal lead, we took away a 3-goal lead and lost the game. And if I remember rightly, Chris, we then went on a really bad run, which then effectively, even though we picked it up near the back end of the season and nearly stayed up, that's probably what ultimately killed us that season and had us go down.
But in that game, though, it was over the whole 45 minutes.
Exactly, Chris, and that's what I mean. The knock-on effect that's going to have, and I would say the situation is, I don't even think and I'm going to use elite managers that have proven themselves at other clubs that other than oil money clubs or ready-built clubs. Not Pep. Managers like Jose Mourinho. I don't even think they'd have got out of that situation. You cannot. It's very, very difficult to pick a team up after a performance like that. I mean, Villa, fair enough, they had Tim Sherwood and then hired Remy Gard, which is by far and away the worst ever. Sorry, correction. Second worst ever manager I've ever seen manage the Premier League next to Frank Lampard. Because they had awful managers, but I worry for Sean Dyche. We said about the Brendan Rodgers effect. We were warned by Liverpool fans. Well, Burnley fans tried to warn Everton fans that yes, he will be able to keep you up because his style of football works for a season or two, but after that it starts to go downhill. And Burnley felt that effect. They just about stayed up, had that random but very wonderful season for them when they made Europa League, didn't they? I think they beat us to it. I think they beat us at their place and pretty much clinched it, and then went that way ever since. And it's been turmoil for Dan.
Would you not? I mean, I wish. I mean, I don't like international breaks this at this point anyway, and the fact that we've got 2 within about 6 weeks is stupid. But I so wish we were playing next week, and I so wish it was Everton.
Yeah, it'd be great momentum to take it, give the lads the inspiration. Although maybe as well, Chris, given obviously we'll talk more about our game and a certain player that we've got in the spotlight bit later on in the show. Stick around, guys. Make sure you listen out for that, because maybe the extra week's what this team needs. Things and we've talked about with this side. It's kind of 50-50. I kind of want to play Everton while they're on the downfall and they're beaten, and it might be a good 3 points for us. But also, given everything we've talked about, how late it took us to get Cooper in, the late 3 or 4 transfers that we made, it gives the team an extra week together, because I can't imagine many of our players will go away on international duty that are new signings like Bernete, Canoes. Maybe I don't know if they've got a game Morocco or are you and players like that. I don't see going away. So I think the majority of our squad still going to be available to do training, and that might just help us a little bit get up to speed. So it's one of them, isn't it? Really, it really is. Damned if we do, damned if we don't. Because if we play them next week and we go and get beat, we're going to be sat here going, "Oh, for sake."
Yeah, well, that could happen, of course. Anyway, I'm going to say hi to Rabbit Man.
Rabbit Man,
nice to see you. He's obviously his hair today, gone tomorrow.
I'm glad I got off camera because I would have headbutted the laptop with that one. I knew it was coming. Well, that's how well I know you.
He's an Ipswich fan, and Ipswich won, Fulham won. The draw sees Ipswich earn their first Premier League point. Liam Delap's goal was enough to earn Ipswich their first Premier League point of the season, but they had to share the spoils in a 1-1 draw with Fulham. Now, obviously, we had played Fulham the week before, and that was the worst of our 3 games. We just were not at the races. And I've got to say, fair play to Ipswich for getting that.
Yeah, you know what, and they deserved it. They had 2 horrible opening fixtures, and they really gave both Man City and Liverpool a real good go. In fact, for 45 minutes, I would say Ipswich were all over Liverpool, really, really tested them. And I think the lack of Premier League experience and familiarity, if you will, because that's what you could say Leicester and Southampton ultimately have the edge over Ipswich on, or should have the edge over, and Southampton proven otherwise, is we've got a bit of familiarity with this division. We only spent 1 season out of it. We were straight back up. Ipswich have been down in the Championship and then all the way down to League One over since they were last in there, and have built their way back up. And as we know, they've actually still got a few players that have taken the whole journey with them. They've been through all the divisions to get here. And ultimately, and I'm sorry, Rabbit, I do feel like for our safety, for our ambitions of safety, you're one of the teams we're eyeing up to unfortunately take them 3 places. But a bit like losing
Ooh.
last season, I do want to see you stay up. We'll chuck Forest in ahead of you. It's fine. We'll put someone like Wolves or that in there and
Well,
replace you. But
you know what, Brad? Some of us actually have. Because and it's still available on the LTID TV channel. I did my predictions with Rob Tanner and my league predictions. Sorry, is what I'm trying to say. And I've actually got Ipswich Town to finish in 16th, one place above us, which I'd love to see them do because I love Luton to stay up last season.
yeah,
I think
you know what, Chris? As long as we stay 17th, you can have them third if you want. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. So I funnily enough, the two other teams we mentioned there, I've got Wolves in 18th, Southampton in 19th, and Forest in 20th. So
Right up, take the league now.
yeah, yeah. Stop now. So no, fair play to Ipswich. They got a point on the board. -5 in the old goal difference column, but they're above your dad's team. And like you say, if they finish there at the end of the season, they'll be very happy. So well done to Ipswich. Right. So next up, we have. Well, it would have been Leicester Villa, but obviously we're going to come on to that till the end. Like Brad always says, you don't think we're going to do that now and then let you go off before we finish the show. So we're going to be doing that. And of course, we're going to be doing that in a lot more depth, are we not, Brad? So
Definitely, mate.
we'll see you. But after we've just done a 1-1, there's another 1-1. Nottingham Forest 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. I got a point on this game because I did predict a draw, but I did actually go for a 0-0. And basically, I'm looking here at a website that's giving me sort of headlines about each game, if you like. So like the Ipswich one was the draw with Fulham sees Ipswich earn first Premier League point. Everton are stunned by late Bournemouth comeback. Nottingham Forest 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, the City Ground. I mean, they said nothing about the game at all. And I know you're not a lover of stats, but please let me just check these. It was 51% possession to Forest, 48 to Wolves. It was a bit of a Brexit game. 5 shots on target for Forest, 3 for Wolves. I mean, I'm not saying it was a dire game, but for them not to actually put any headline on there kind of says it all, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does a little bit, doesn't it?
And they've got no highlights as well.
I know, right? Well, that says more than enough about them, doesn't it? I mean, my dad was probably grateful that he got a luxury box to go and sit in. There, obviously, with the Forest fans, so that he was told he couldn't wear any Wolves shirt, which it's all right. He hasn't got any that fit him anyway. But he said it's one of them games that you get annoyed at when you probably shouldn't, because he said you get there and probably like us against Villa, we'd have taken a point, and we would have. Let's not lie about it. We would have taken a point, especially against a Champions League side, which Cooper did use to mask a little bit. I'm not going to lie, but he has got a fair point. They are a very good outlet. Let's not kid ourselves here, And my dad said it was one of them where he was happy with the point, but he was a bit bored. He says, and I don't like getting up with football. He says, he says, in a way, it was one of them games I would have actually taken seeing us lose the game, knowing we absolutely threw everything at them to try and win the game. He says, ultimately, I'll probably be turning around at the end of the season going, thank God we got that draw at Nottingham Forest, it might keep them up. But I remember Chris and our great escape, and it was I think it was just before we kind of kicked on with it. Maybe just at the start of it, I'm not sure. We played Hull at home, and I foolishly gave up a day's wage to book it off as a holiday. Well, not a day's wage, but because I booked it off. But I decided to take my dad up an opportunity to go to the box and watch us Leicester play Hull in the Great Escape. and we drew 0-0. And I went to the bar just across the road from the stadium, you know, the little bar that's attached to the hotel. I don't know if it's still there now, but it was.
It is. No, it is. Yeah.
My boss was in there at full time because boss's privileges, I guess. And I'd had a few beers, but I went up to him and went, "Don't you ever allow me to book a day off to go sit in the box again, because that was shit." Because it was. And even though we got a point that ultimately, all right, in the long run, it didn't matter because we got more than enough points to stay safe that season. But had we stayed by a point, Chris, I'd be going, you know what, I might nearly fallen asleep, but at least we got that point against Hull.
Well,
But
this game was over after 12 minutes because the two goals were in the 10th and 12th minute. Interestingly, Chris Wood getting the goal for Nottingham Forest.
Well, actually, you say interestingly, but like we have our Leicester stats, my dad should have put a bet on. Not like I'm condoning gambling. If you do gamble, gamble responsibly. When the fun stops, stop. See, I could work for Sky Bet, you see.
You're learning.
But he said to the guys in the box, you know, and for those of you that maybe don't do a boxing, I don't know, but when I've ever gone to Leicester's box, we do a little thing where we all put £10 in, and it gets split in two, and you guess the attendance and you guess the score, and whoever gets the score gets half the money, and he gets the closest for the attendance. Yeah. You get the gist. Yeah. And he said, "I bet you any money Chris Wood scored against us." And the lad who was sat a few rows in front of him outside the box heard him, and he kind of had his app open on a betting app, and he was thinking about putting Chris Wood to score any time. But the odds were crap because he's a striker. You know, they're not going to want to pay lots of money out, so he didn't bother in the end. And lo and behold, Chris Wood, as he said, scored. Turns out he scored in every. You know, he has a goal a game ratio against Wolves. You know, whether that means he scored 2 in one game and then not in the other, he always scores past Wolves. Whether he's been at Leeds, Leicester, or any of the other 75 teams he's played for in his life, Dad said he has an immaculate record against Wolves. So it actually wasn't a surprise that Chris Wood scored for Forest against Wolves.
Well, maybe we should have bought him rather than Edward then, you know.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'll take him straight back, mate.
Yeah. Now, you can't, whatever you say about this guy, he just keeps doing it week in, week out. Haaland scores second straight hat-trick in a 3-1 Man City away win at West Ham. I think we all probably got a point on this game. All right. Fuck off. Yeah, you come back on camera for that, you smarmy bastard.
My camera started working, but oh no, let's go again.
Who knew, eh? Bloody hell.
I'm joking, I'll sort it out.
Oh, it's so difficult not to look smug at this point.
There we go. Somebody else had popped up and scored a bloody goal, for God's sake. But look, Manchester City, I mean, it's just like a truck that just keeps going on and on and on, isn't it? You know, 10:30, 83 minutes. They even scored the bloody goal for West Ham, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you what. First of all, Haaland's a flipping cheat code that Man City have entered into the system, because he's just human, is he? He's not. He's not. I mean, I was probably on one of them that thought, yeah, all right, he's scoring a load of goals for Borussia Dortmund, but they're like the German Celtic and Rangers, aren't they? It's them two, you know, Bayern and the Celtic, Borussia Dortmund and the Rangers. But still, it's, you know, minus Leverkusen, you know, rampage last season. It's, you know, it's one of them two that's usually up there or doing really well. So it's good. My thing is, Chris, and it's not all jealousy or anything like that. I love to see competition. We always bring up the old Kevin Keegan, love it part. You love that, don't you? The reference. I love it if they beat them and whatnot. But back then, Chris, it was Arsenal were in with a shout, Villa were in with a shout, Newcastle were in with a shout, Manchester United were in with a shout, and the season wasn't over until many a season. So the last game of the season, was it? You had 2 or 3 teams that had the outside chance of still winning a title. And again, like I said, it's not jealousy. It is from a pure football fan perspective. It's just boring, isn't it? It's boring.
There's a thin line, though, for me between appreciating good football and look. It's always it's always
They
a
always
pleasure
play good football.
to watch good football. You know, those Newcastle Liverpool games. I think it was two games in 2 seasons. It was 4-3. You know, when Collymore got that last minute and Keegan slumps over the advertising hoarding. I mean, great games. Well, hopefully, and we'll come on to Liverpool in a second, but hopefully Liverpool will maybe give them a run for the money. But look, you can't. They've not really done much in the transfer window this season. Maybe they're just checking over the shoulder at the PSR. Who knows? But 3 played, 3 wins, plus 7, 9 points, and that was Manchester City's. Who were the late game on Saturday. And we went on to Sunday, and there was a couple of early ones. Started off with your second favourite team in the division, Chelsea, hosting on Crystal Palace. And this Jackson lad for Chelsea's doing well. Sorry, yeah, is that for Palace? Did it?
Jackson is
it's Chelsea, isn't it? Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Miss Jackson is definitely.
Sorry,
Chelsea.
yeah, it was just the way I was reading it. Sorry, yeah. I didn't see the comma. Jackson nets, but Chelsea held to draw by Palace. This is a game that Chelsea should have been winning if they've got any title ambitions, surely.
Well, any ambitions, they should be winning it. You know, again, Crystal Palace are a well-established side, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. With most teams drawing or even losing to Palace, you know. But for me, this is just another thing to go Chelsea fans on. They're already not a big fan of snake in the grass. They're already starting to say, "Oh, Leicester warned us. Leicester were happy to let him go. They weren't bothered. That should have been a warning." So, you know, all them comments are all over social media, stuff like that. And
we did warn them, didn't we? I can remember going on to a Chelsea Ankit's channel, and I can remember warning him what it was going to be like.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is not the result you want as a fan of the club or as the manager of the club after you've just put 6 past Wolves. A result like that they had the previous weekend, Chris, you would be expecting it to be a walkover. And I haven't done the table yet. I'll do that tomorrow or Wednesday. But you would be remiss of me to say this, and John will probably prove me right, wrong now. I don't think many people predicted a point for, you know, a draw between these.
I wouldn't bother doing the table if I was you, Brad. I mean, it's an international week. I just wouldn't bother with it.
It's all right. I mean, I've got to take someone out, so you might drop in the bottom for him. I didn't want to mention it. This is not another frustrating performance and another frustrating result for Chelsea. And again, Chris, you know, this isn't just like, oh, it's only in the Premier League. They played a team called Serviette. And if it wasn't for the fact that they got a second goal in the home leg, Chris, I know, for what it's worth, no disrespect to them, for the quality and difference, it was like playing. It should have been like playing a bunch of Serviettes for Chelsea. Let's face it, Chris. You know, and they lost, Chris. You know, yes, they went through on aggregate, but they lost against this team in an away leg. And if you cannot overcome a team like that in both legs, because let's face it, they should have beat them off the park. Both ties. And, you know, Chelsea fans should be going, okay, you know what? Didn't beat Man City, dodgy start, but it looks like he's got the ball rolling. Faith in Enzo. This is just reset it. Chris, this is Chelsea. Welcome to the rest of your season if he's still in charge, because this is what you'll get. You'll get one, and we had it last season, Chris. I know, obviously, we won the league, and we had it on a far bigger and better scale. But we did have performances, Chris, where even when we won games, we were going, "Yeah, but not me. Better team, better finishing." How many times were we saying that last season?
Yes,
I think we played Sheffield Wednesday at home, and they had terrible finishing. Could have taken a draw, and And they didn't. They did at Hillsborough, didn't they, when they had better finishing? So Chelsea fans, unfortunately, as long as he's your manager, draws against the likes of Palaces and teams like that, you're going to see a lot of them, I'm afraid.
There's a quote here. Macotti, the Spanish journalist, Marquez's normal not to win comment problematic for Chelsea. So whether presumably he must have said that. Now we're going to say hi to Geordie, who is in. Got me a point, but I did go 1-0 to Newcastle. But Isaac Goal sees Newcastle snatch win over Spurs. I think at the time, and I have slept since then, Spurs were looking the more likely, but it was a great breakaway goal, I've got to say, by Newcastle. And Spurs, as we always say, being Spursy.
Spurs, the gift that keeps on giving, Chris. Look, you'd imagine that eventually Tottenham's luck is going to turn. As funny as it is, and all banter aside, they can't surely keep playing that well and not getting results their way. Maybe if they hadn't spent £65 million on a one-hit wonder and spent it elsewhere, they might have a striker that's fit and able to play every week and actually put the ball in the net more than once. However, having said that, it does get concerning because if this carries on past the international break, you know what football fans are like, Chris, and we know what Daniel Levy's like, and boards of football clubs can be like. Even ours went through a period of it in the Championship, not so much in the Premier League, but still, it's not going to bode well. There's only so long you can keep sitting there as a fan going, that's frustrating because we were there. And I'm sure Geordie will say for a majority of that match, they were slightly, if only slightly, they were the better side. But
Tottenham or Newcastle?
Yeah, Tottenham were.
They were at the time, yeah, because there was a bit of a late surge, I think, by Spurs. They scored all 3 goals again.
Like George just said it there. And at the end of the day, they had 20 plus shots, and it took Dan Burn, unfortunately, having the ball hit him how it did. Otherwise, they wouldn't have scored that, Chris. They'd have lost a game that they had a lot of chances in. 2-1.
20 shots, as you say, to Newcastle's 9.
Yeah, and that's why further proving, Chris, my point. The only stat that ever matters is the ones of how many times you put on the ball in there.
Yeah, this is Ange's second year, and his second year wherever he's been, he's won something.
Yeah, unfortunately, he forgot that Spurs have premature arritis, and they accidentally won a pre-season tournament, and that was enough for them, wasn't it?
Probably will be it. A game that I watched a lot of. Now, I actually don't dislike Ten Hag. I think he was dealt with really, really badly by Manchester United. I would have loved him to have turned around and said, "Fuck off! I've got another job now. Bye." They were awful, absolutely awful. Liverpool 3-0 could have been more, should have been more. And it says, and I don't think this isn't over egging the pie at all, but Liverpool humble rivals Man United in a 3-0 win. And it was at Old Trafford.
You know what? You can paper over the cracks, you can get rid of individuals, but we all know the biggest problem at Manchester United, and it's 11 Hags. You know what I mean? It's Eric 10 Hags, so he should be more like Eric 0 Hags because he hasn't got a brain. 10 Hag is just he's washed up. He's not a manager that can handle the Premier League. I'm sorry, he can't. Geordie's got a bit splashed on. Some of the things he said are beyond strange. Do you remember when Leicester played Brentford a few seasons ago, Chris, when we got relegated? And we were 2-0 up and drew that game 2-2, and Brendan Rodgers at full time said they were tired and it was a really warm day. And it was like, well, why they're tired, what they're doing over pre-season, and B, it was a nice cool 20 degrees, and Brentford didn't seem to struggle.
Why didn't you make any substitutions?
Yeah, and why did you not bring any players off and bring them on if they were all that tired? It's a bit like that with Ten Hag. Before a ball was kicked, you're not ready for the season. I'm sorry, mate. You're not managing newly promoted Ipswich or Southampton. You're managing Manchester United, and no matter how much you class their last 7 or 8 years as a fall from grace, if you will, it is still Manchester United. They still have the ability, no matter how badly they're doing, to go out there and go, yeah, we'll pay you 50 million for him, and that player will want to go. It doesn't matter how they're doing. It's Manchester United. Their history will always hold them in good stead and speak for themselves. And it's not like, Chris, it's not like they don't have abundance of talent there. I mean, as much as he wasn't really rated too highly or spoke highly of by Manchester United fans, you know who they strangely missed against Liverpool? Scott McTominay. Because he might not have been the most gifted, and he might not be a player that reads the same CV as a Manchester United player that of past generations. But he clearly did something right enough to keep getting picked by any manager that was there, and I think the manager's got to go. I think they have to really look hard at the next managerial option, because for whatever reason, when it looked like he was going to get the sack, and this was this season and last season, Chris, for whatever reason, give him an extra couple of years to sort it out. And I think if you're a Manchester United fan,
hasn't Arne Slot come from Dutch football?
Yeah, but he's actually seemingly got a brain, or maybe just doing a Ranieri.
Well, I mean, look, maybe Man United have done the right thing. I mean, I know when you look at Chelsea, whatever you say about Chelsea, Watford tried to copy Chelsea. Chelsea get rid of managers like we change our underwear, but it works for them. Every time they change it, it actually, they go on and win something, don't they? But Man United don't, and Chelsea have got what Chelsea have got is a very good squad. Manchester United haven't got that, and they need to get that squad right, I think, before they keep starting to swap and change the managers. Every time you bring a new manager in, different tactics, different favourite players, different style of play, and Brad's gone. I don't know where Brad went then, but you get what I'm saying, guys. And I think Man United can't keep changing managers on the hope that, we're going to strike it lucky this time, we're going to strike it lucky this time. Because, to be honest with you, the squad isn't that good. The squad isn't that good. Yes, all right, Brad. Brad's just saying his internet's gone again. Not a problem. Look, we're going to end it there. We're going to come back with Leicester. I'm just going to go off and go visit the little boys' room. Actually, that's a lie. I'm going to go and see the big, bloody, massive boys' room. What can I say? What can I say? If you've got it, flaunt it. We'll have a look at the table first, though. And there is the table. Look, Man City, Liverpool. Look, what Slaughter's done. He's come in, he's not made a signing, and he's just gone ahead and, he's doing well. And I thought Liverpool would struggle this season. I thought they struggled even because they didn't bring the players in. And they certainly, they've been absolutely quiet in the transfer window. Look, they're doing all right. Arne Slaughter's come in and he's slotted right in. See what I did there? But yeah, let's have a look. I'm sorry. Let's have a look at the table then. So we're looking Manchester City and Liverpool, both with 100% records. Brighton doing well in third, but we've seen it before with Brighton, haven't we? We've seen them start well and then not finish not finish very well. 7 points with Arsenal also on 7. Newcastle, Geordie, on 7. You're then down to Brentford, Villa in 7th, Bournemouth. Few teams there mid-table, but you see, look, we got Tottenham Hotspur are only mid-table. It is early, I know. Chelsea only mid-table, and then you've got West Ham United and Manchester United, who are only just sitting one place above Leicester. We are worried, or should we be worried? We've only got 1 point from 3 games, and yes, all right, we've played Spurs, who are in the Europa League. We've played Aston Villa, who are in the Champions League. I'm going to talk more about this with Brad in a second when he comes back in. Happy? No. But we need to start getting some points. The next 2 games, Everton and Palace, they are so important for us. But I'm just going to go now. I'm just going to go and have my little break, and we will be back with Brad in a few minutes.
The Premier League is back, and we've got it all covered here on Leicester Till I Die TV. Subscribe.
Your sound's gone, mate.
It is because I'm muting myself.
Brilliant work.
Because I hadn't got any sound on the video. Now, welcome back.
Look, for a hissy fit with me.
Yes. Well, talking about having a hissy fit, do tune in tomorrow night at 7:00 for the Let's Talk Leicester debate shows. I think me and Kate might be falling out. I was absolutely pissed off with this performance.
Yeah, I was as well, Chris. And I'll be able to say more about it when we talk about more about the player I've got under the spotlight as to why I was so annoyed about it, because I can understand being a little bit protective in that first half. I get it. We're a newly promoted side, and when we come up against a side like Villa, and we did the same against Spurs, so I kind of expected it. You want to kind of damage limitation. You don't want to go too gun-ho and find yourself 3-0 down at half time. But you've also got to show a bit of fight, a bit of grit, and a bit of ability to kind of retaliate to the pressure that we were under for a good chunk of that game. For at least 55 odd minutes, Chris. I know we came out, we were a little bit better in the start of the second half, but still with no real impetus in the attack. So I was annoyed because what followed after the 60th minute mark, when certain substitutes came on, Chris, was blatantly obvious for the second time. 2 out of 3 times ain't bad, as Meatloaf once said. But for the second time this season, both funny enough at home, Chris, when we go at teams, we clearly cause them issues that they don't know what to do. And it was more infuriating for that reason than anything else for me, because it was a game where we obviously had the ability, and we clearly have the ability in that squad to cause teams like Villa and Tottenham a lot of problems. So much so, Chris, that whether he took him off because he was injured or not is not by the by. He took a substitute off to put on a defensive player because he was fearing that Leicester were going to grab the equaliser. Obviously, inevitably, we didn't get it. And again, if it was an injury reason, that obviously explains why it was him. But he was obviously going to bring on that player to shore things up in the hope that would be enough, which ultimately was, to stop Leicester getting an equaliser.
You know what I did at the weekend, Brad?
You did a watch along.
No, I read a book.
You did?
And I read the dictionary. And the booklet did it, by the way, under B. I just want to read this to you because this is actually from the Collins English Dictionary. Reactive. If someone is reactive, they behave in response to what happens to them rather than deciding in advance how they want to behave. You could also say that they're apathetic, passive, laissez-faire, inactive. If you're proactive, actions are intended to cause changes rather than just reacting to change. I think I read somewhere that Cooper was saying, well, I was always going to bring on attacking players later in the game. Why the fuck didn't you start with attacking players? Why are we reacting to being a goal down?
Yeah.
Why are we reacting to being 2 goals down? You never made any substitutions till we were 2-0 down. We were at home, for God's sake. We were at home. We're not away. We're at the King Power. Put the fucking best team out you can. 3 centre defensive midfielders at home. And all right, you could say, and this is me rant here, let me have a rant. You could say that Villa are a Champions League side. Yes, they are. But after the 60th minute or whatever it was, they did not look like a Champions League side. And if we'd have started with that team, rather than bringing them on, we would have probably got something from that game. Now, Fulham was a one-off, right? Fulham, we were awful for the whole game. And if I say well done to Ipswich, because Fulham really impressed me. Established Premier League team with an established manager, established squad. They looked comfortable and they got the 3 points that they deserved. Well played to them. But against Spurs, we reacted. Against Aston Villa, we reacted. For God's sake, Steve Cooper, get your finger out your arse and put a bullet up it and start being proactive.
Well, I mean, excuse me, I need to yawn. Excuse me.
Sorry, was it boring, that?
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. It was just coincidental that I needed to yawn when you finished speaking. But I would like to think that on reflection of what he's seen in the first 3 games, and his backroom staff will come together and go, look, Steve, I understand that we're a new side back in the Premier League and these have been 2 tough positions, but we were our most impressive over this period. Maybe it's a way to go about it, Chris, because what's that saying? I know there's probably someone who will watch this or is watching it back that will have a nice little chuckle about me here. I'm probably going to butcher a saying here, but with the 3 CDMs, Chris, it kind of rings the whole expression, too many cooks spoil the broth.
That is correct, sir. That is the thing, yeah.
Hey, got it. I didn't mangle 2 sentences or 2 things together. And for me, Chris, I felt that. I felt we were too clustered in that midfield. Too many players trying to do the same.
You do well with that, and then you go and say clustered. You mean cluttered?
Yeah, it's cluttered, same potato. All right. But yeah, we were too clustered in. I'm saying it again, sorry, it's my word now. I'm owning it. In that middle of the park, we had too many people trying to do the same role that they kind of got in each other's way. And I know Kate's best mate and Didi didn't have the greatest game, but again, Chris, you could say which one of the 3 did because none of them did. They were all pretty shambolic in the middle of the field. And that's probably why Ndidi kind of broke away a bit. I know he didn't do much going forward, but at least he was pressing the high line because he obviously got a bit fed up.
But and this is very much the theme of and do check it out tomorrow, everybody, bbc.com/LCFC for my fans' thoughts. You could put Ndidi in goal, but he's still a he's still a CDM. He's a defensive midfielder. Putting him forward of the other two doesn't suddenly turn him into an attacking midfielder. And yeah, all right, I think he got a goal in against Tranmere or whatever. But look, he misses more than he scores. He isn't an attacking midfielder. He isn't the pre-injury Ndidi. Am I glad he stayed? Yes, I am, because I think he's a great squad player. Because there'll be a time when Winks is banned or Skip gets injured that we might have to bring him on. But you've got, and I think it was John was saying, we've got two defensive attacking midfielders on the bench. All right, we've only just signed one, but do you know what? He's actually played 2 games this season because his leagues had already kicked off as well. So he wasn't not match fit at all. Buenete, put him on. He scores. Luke, the Nottingham Forest fan.
Yeah.
He said, I think it was 2 games away from home Cooper won in that full season at Forest. He says, you're going to need to make King Power a fortress. Fuck me. If we're only going to win 2 away games, and I don't think we'll win that, with performances like that, Fortress, fucking hell, somebody's emptied the moat. They'll be coming in. I mean, it's just... Why is he trying to put... And he had Ayew again on the left. Mavididi, as John said, what the fuck is he doing on the bench?
Yeah. It was... And before anybody thinks, Brad's got someone he doesn't like, if I see Ayew on the... it's not the case, by the way, because, again, Musa effect, Chris, you know where I'm going with this. But if we come back off an international break, and is it Palace we play or Everton first?
Palace away.
Palace away. And Selhurst Park, we go there, and the team sheet comes out about 15 minutes before we go. Well, I'll go live because someone's sunning it up in Australia. Oh, well. And then I get the team news, and I see Jordan Ayew not in Jamie Vardy's role, right? And he's out on the piss and left. I'm gonna end. You know what? I'm gonna take my laptop with a Wi-Fi box plugged into it. I'm going to get on a train all the way to Selhurst Park. I'm going to find a way into Stadium. I'm going to chill him live on camera for you all. Not Ayew, Steve Cooper.
I thought you were going to say I'm going to shove it up his arse, to be honest with you.
Well, maybe.
I was going to say I'll hold it down for you.
Well, which one gets more views? That's what it's all about, isn't it, Chris? But no, honestly, if he puts Ayew on that pitch and he plays him on the wing, I will be asking a fan, look, how much do you like someone bring a non-football fan who doesn't care if they get banned for life, and if he puts Ayew on the left, go on, tell him to run on and chin Cooper and knock some sense into him, because it is absolutely baffling that you're playing a striker on the wing. If he's good at winning free kicks, which he is, we've seen that already. He's won us a plethora of free kicks already, actually, to be fair to him, and do exactly what, funny enough, the Crystal Palace fans have told us he's going to do, and maybe play him in his natural position so he can win free kicks in a more dangerous central area. Or who knows, Chris, being a striker, he might even win us a couple of penalties.
Yeah. I tell you what as well, right? It's funny. I know it was only Tranmere in the cup, but Mavididi on the left, Ayew in the centre, we had an easy win. And everybody says, well, it's only Tranmere. Yeah, it was only Wycombe Wanderers. Yeah, it was only Newport County. So let's not go down that road. But I'm sorry, that proved, put players, the square pegs in square holes. And Cooper, look, what the fuck happens? You know what I mean? We win, and we win comfortably, and we play well. If we had started with the teams that we finished with, and yes, make changes later on, but if you're 2-0 up, then you make the changes. Not when you're 2-0 down.
Yeah, exactly, mate.
I just look. We could have beaten Spurs. So let's say we got 3 points there, got a point off Villa. We'd have got 4 points. We'll forget the Fulham game, right? Because that was just nobody turned up that game. So we could have got 4 points. We'd be in a lot nicer position. We're going to get a points deduction. We can't afford to make team selections and choices like that. Look, I like Cooper. I wanted Cooper. But my God, and I know we're only 3 games in, but he's testing my patience.
Yeah, he is, mate. Look, again, you could probably make a case or an argument to say, you know, you want to think that what he's seen about it, Chris, he'll slowly make, you
But we
know,
haven't
them
got time
change.
to be slow. You know, the rumours are we're going to get 2 lots of 6 points deducted.
Yeah, well, again,
Every point is worth it.
No, and I totally understand that. We do need to be getting points on the board. We don't have the, for lack of a better word, luxury of going, oh, well, we're above the relegation zone by a point, so it's okay. We could, a goal difference, it's okay. We, even if we slowly get points, we're still going to be safe because teams are doing worse than us. We know the detriment effect is that we can't be 1 or 2 points clear of the relegation zone, sadly enough. We're going to need to be 8 or 9 points to give ourselves a fighting chance. Again, a bit like a transfer, until it's announced, I'll wait and see what happens. It could be 6, it could be 12, it could be 4, it could be 10. They'll fight it until as long as they can to try and give us the best chance to be in a position of power, I guess, in the sense that it'll kind of be like when Nottingham Forest got their little 2-point deduction last season. They'll go, yeah, well, it's all right. That only means now we're 8 points ahead of the bottom 3. So we'll deal with that when it comes our way. Naturally, we'll have to.
Let me throw another one into the pot at you here. Justin was absolutely shit against Fulham. Definitely at fault for 1 goal. You could argue he was at fault for the second one as well. How the fuck did he start and not Ricardo?
Because like any manager, Cooper already has a preference, and whilst I'm happy with the preference he's got, because I do think he's a young, good talent that could do well for us, and acting like you said with some of the new signings, he wants to be here as well as Christensen. My only thing is, if you're going to play Christensen, that's fine, but put him on the left and let Ricardo play on that right, because
Justin can play either side.
Well, Christensen's overlapping for the goals, and we're going to talk about Mavididi a bit more in a minute or two. But what he offers going up that side, we were completely deadpanned on that right side because we just were not getting offered that by JJ. Until, funny enough, we had them on the back foot. That's the only time JJ was able to get free on that right-hand side and wasn't chained to the defensive role of his duty.
And I get the fact that we have to play Christensen on the left because he is an attacking force. And I love James Justin, but I know he can play on either side, but that doesn't mean that you're brilliant on either side. Phil Neville was called a utility player. He was shit in every position he played, and Justin is better on the left than on the right. And I'll throw that Southampton game at you last season when we won, and he was on that right. He was probably our worst player, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt because he'd come back from injury. So you've got Justin. Don't stick him on the pitch just because you like him and he smiles at you a lot when you walk in the door, Steve Coop. You're not supposed to have, pets like, teachers' pets and what have you. You're supposed to be able to make decisions on what's best for the team. Justin on the right is not best for the team. Put Ricardo there. If Ricardo gets injured, yes, then we'd have to have Justin on that side. And if Christian gets injured, we can use Justin on the left. It's called having a squad, Cooper. Now, I don't want to tell you your job, but you're obviously not fucking doing it, or not doing it very well at the moment. And we can all see these things. The one thing he got right, and I'm going to have to say, I've had my, I did have humble pie for lunch today, and that was a Coley, who I thought did have a good game. And I wasn't his biggest fan, but I thought a Coley did all right.
Yeah, I think he had a good game as well, and I'm hoping, that's something that steps in. It means your love child's going to have to be benched, I'm afraid, Chris, but I'm sure if he plays really well at Cola, you can deal with it.
Whoever plays well, to be honest with you. I don't think you can play a Coley and Vestergaard together.
Yeah, I think you have to have him in phase. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, Chris, I'm also with you because I do find it baffling, and I love JJ, I love Christensen, I love Ricardo, right? I don't have a favourite out of the three of them. I know I'm very happy and glad that Christensen's got back into the fold, but in that sense, but I don't have a favourite out of the three of them. But in terms of pure quality and what we've seen of them, I can't fathom how Cooper can come out and say, and he said this in his press conference, that he spoke to Ricardo, told him to explain to him his role in the team this season, and he's going to have to be patient. He's the most experienced right back, wing back we've got. I know JJ's been in an England international, but that was more to appease his uprise when he was, for Leicester. John's comment there. But surely, what was it we said? I would rather, with the greatest respect, I would rather turn around to Justin and say, look, you might start a few games, you might come off the bench in a few games, depending on who we're playing and how I want to start things, but you're going to have to be patient. You're not going to be a regular starting player because what I want from the team and how I want to start most games is more Christian's game than it is yours, but you're going to get game time. However, on the right, it's nailed on Ricardo's going to play, and unless he gets
going to basically say to Justin what he said to Ricardo.
Exactly. That's what I mean. If any of them needed that talk, it was Justin or potentially Christensen. And obviously he's chosen Christensen on that left-hand side. So why is it that it's Ricardo getting told, be patient, wait your turn? That man is probably up there with Vardy as one of the most loyalist players we've had in a long time, Chris. If you said to me, what quality player are you expecting to be one of the first out of the door? After Maddison, Chris, I would have said there's no way Ricardo, who is more than good enough to be in the Premier League, he would fit into probably 16 teams in the Premier League right back. Maybe 14. I don't know. Maybe there's some teams would argue he wouldn't get into their squad. But I guarantee you last season he would have comfortably got into most teams' starting side, or if not, been a regular feature for them throughout the season. And he stuck by us in the Championship, didn't even raise a stir, didn't even cause a stir about it. Got his head down. I'm a Leicester player. That's my role. I want to be here. And
when you look at those stats that I've just put up, lots of stats, we were better on a lot of the stats and certainly held our own against a Champions League team. But I hate this thing. Like, yes, I accept that we look at some of these games and think we might win that, we might lose that, or we could get a point there. But when you're looking at the game retrospectively and you're looking back at it, you're going to say, all right, so they're a Champions League team. But from the 65th odd minute, we were the better team.
Yeah,
and again, we should have followed that. So fuck the fact that they're in the Champions League. We held our own. But if we'd had that at the start, who knows? And John, Faze wanted to play on the right. Fair play to him, no pun intended. If that's your better position, and it's the same with Christensen last season. He said, "No, I don't want to play in that role. That's not the role I play. I play here." Now, all right, occasionally you do get a manager going that turns a defender into a striker, or a striker then drops down into becoming a midfielder. But the players know what position they're happy playing in. And if Faze thinks, and I never liked Faze on the left. I have to be honest with you, I did not like it at all. The only time occasionally we was all right was when he played Ricardo on that side as well last season under Maresca. But if you go into, if a player says, I want to play on this side, it's because he feels more comfortable on that side. And if you feel more comfortable, you're going to have a better game. So fair play to Faze for coming up and saying that. But we're going to get onto your bit now. But we do have a spotlight on a different player every week. And I give you the choice this week. I dropped it on you last week a little bit. I gave you the choice this week, and you went for a certain Mr. Mavididi. I'm just going to sit back here and wait for the rant.
Yeah, how this man has not got a start in the Premier League baffles me, Chris. It says a lot about our opening 3 games if if I'm sat here talking about a player's performance over 40 odd minutes of football this season, came on against Spurs, came on against Villa,
Yeah.
completely changed the game. Completely changed the game. It's almost like putting on a 26-year-old natural born winger over a 32-year-old natural born striker who's trying to play out on the wing, gives you impotence to go and attack teams down the left. 2 assists, an assist this season, but it was essentially his cross that got us a goal that got us back into the game at the weekend against Villa. I know indeed he will get it for his nod down, but if he's not on the pitch to cross it in, Chris, we don't get back into the game. What's this man got to do to get a start? I will be fuming if he doesn't start against Crystal Palace. I might have to just mute myself and have a rant and rave and have people see me going like that on stream so I don't get this channel shut down. Because honestly, this guy changed the dynamic of the game. This, along with the other substitutes to give credit to, was the reason we had Tottenham and we had Villa backpedaling. Players that got at Villa weren't afraid to run at them, take the ball past them. And he did it with such ease and swagger, Chris. And both his crosses for the half assist and an assist against Spurs, Chris, he had all the time in the wheel, and he kind of went, I'm going to look in the box because I've done my job. You're still catching your breath and trying to catch up to me, mate. There. Okay, there you go. Oh, well done, lads. We've got a goal. How is he not playing? How is he not playing week in, week out? We came into the season, Chris, very excited about Fatawu and Mavididi, and we probably had fans as well. We're probably debating, which one's going to do better? Fatawu got goals and this, but Mavididi knows what he's doing. Which one's going to have the best season? These are going to be vital to our season. And I'm not saying Fatawu's had a bad start to the game. He's still learning Premier League. He's still learning he can't get away with a few things he did in the Premiership. That's fine. I can forgo him because at least he's still trying and he's still doing well. He's trying, isn't he? You know what I mean? To do it. This man needs to start because he gives so much impetus to the squad. And not just that, Chris, the crowd, who have been brilliant, by the way, but the crowd were dead. That Villa goal knocked the stuffing out the crowd. It really did, because they were brilliant. They were singing. They were getting behind the lads. They were really trying to encourage the lads and the manager to some point to go forward, be brave, go out Villa. Almost as if we're saying, we'd rather see you give it everything and lose 3-1 than watch this game play out to a 2-0 defeat as it was at the time, the way it was going. This is the sort of performance we were salivating at potentially seeing this season. And I'm so glad, in the 45 minutes against Spurs and the 30 minutes against Villa, 35 minutes against Villa, the biggest positive we have seen is this man. And Chris, if he doesn't start, I don't know.
Will you still be with us when I come back from Australia, or will you have had a coronary?
I might be in intensive care. I don't know. I might not be.
No, but I gotta say, look, you're preaching to the converted here, 100%. You know that. I can't argue with anything you've said there. And if this guy doesn't start, and look, I know, like I said, for me, Steve Cooper was one of the 3 I wanted. And I know it's a marathon, not a sprint. But like you say, that this guy's not starting against Palace, I am going to have my doubts about Cooper. At the moment, I'm probably 50-50. We'll wait and see, because it could drop below. Like they do with the Prime Minister, where they have a popularity count. Maybe we should do that with Cooper. What do you think? Have a popularity count as we go through the season. But Brad, if you're ready... Sorry?
Yeah, maybe you should be doing it, because right now I think he'd be 60-40 against.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that could be interesting. Right. Take us. Well, I know we've covered the game quite a bit, but anything else you want to add about the game?
I mean, yeah, first of all, to kind of roll off from what I said about Mavididi playing, if we learned anything from that, it is three central defensive midfielders is one, potentially even two too many. For me, I think you at least need, if you're going to play one CDM, you need two central midfielders on the pitch, where kind of like how the centre backs operate, where one will push forward, one holds back, and then the other one might push forward and the other one holds back. We could kind of use that, so you could still play Caboose, because I call him, and you could play Burnette in the same 11. You know what I mean, Chris? You can kind of have one pushing back and one
Yeah.
just in case the ball needs to be recycled, or they kind of make a tackle and bring it out. We've still got someone not too deep in our own half, but maybe just in our half who can recycle the ball and allow us to build again while still on the on the words are evading me, on the press, putting them under the cosh. It needs to be scrapped. This two, you remember this two CDM, this three CDM vibe is giving me Napolis Mendes and Samori vibes. And we both know what that was like. It felt like Ndidi or Samari were babysitting Mendy, or Mendy was babysitting. It felt like someone was always babysitting each other. And I just don't. That's not going to do us any favors this season. I understand having that insurance policy like a Winks there or a Skip there, but if you're gonna play two, Chris, you need someone who's going to be an attacking midfielder on there, and you need one of your CDMs to still be proactive, kind of feeding the line between defending and supporting the attack role. So for me, the formation's got to change. And I would be tempted to play a 4. If you're going to go CDM as its own thing, a 4-1-2-3. A 4,
Yeah, no, I get that.
A CDM, two central midfielders for the push on, and one kind of holding the line. Mavididi and Fatu on the wing, and Ayu or Vardy up front, because they're both going to offer us the same thing.
Mm-hmm. To me, you're talking total sense. Now, I'm quite happy to have to have Skip and Winks playing together, because I know Winks he is a defensive midfielder, but he does tend to end up all over the pitch, doesn't he? Fair play to him. But you've got to have some threat in that midfield. And honestly, I've seen more threat in a kids' party in McDonald's than we had in that midfield in that first half.
Yeah, because we had too many people trying to do we've got to be cautious and going, Chris. And the most frustrating thing I found watching us, Chris, especially in that first half, was any breakaway we had. You suddenly realise, and as we do instinctively as fans and people in the crowd do, we win the ball at the edge of our own box and drive forward, and we're like, oh, here we go, and then suddenly you realise, oh, Fatu's 40 yards that way, Vardy's 30 yards that way, Jordan Ayew's just getting off his Zimmer frame and trying to get into their half that way, but Winks has suddenly got the ball, and his so-called midfield options are 5 inch, 5 yards left or right of him. It's no good. Where's Burnette running through the middle to allow that spring of trap? Because we hadn't. It was almost like we went to spring the trap, and two traps worked, and the other ones went and fell apart and didn't spring. We didn't spring into life on a counter attack, Chris. And not until we had the likes of Mavididi, Burnette, and Caboose on the pitch did we manage to have that spring in the attack, did we? And that's the more concerning thing. I can take being conservative in that first 45 minutes, but give us some impetus. Give us that release point that when the pressure builds and maybe, Villa or whoever have that first 15, 20 minutes, and we see it out, we then go, right, now let's change it up. We've got, I know Skip is central defensively minded, Chris, but he's 20 pissing 3. Surely he has a bit of pace about him that he can play that role to drive forward if we want to sit 2 in midfield, 2 CDMs and put him in front. Somebody must have it about them to be able to be, to turn a 6-man defense into a 5-man attack. You know what I mean? And I know people are going to say, Brad, that's 11 outfield players. What I mean is, that one of that defensive players that's suddenly picking the ball in the halfway line is able to spring out and allow the 3 players in front to get the ball to them quicker, and while the rest play catch up. It's something that needs to be changed. And like you said, Chris, and I've said it tonight, and a few people in the comments have reiterated it in their own words, what we've said. If it's not done by Crystal Palace, then you remember when you said to me, don't worry yet, or is it, too early to panic or get worried?
Yeah.
I will start to get worried.
Well, it is Palace up next. I was just looking at the possibility of picking a team, but I'm just looking at the time and want to get onto the marking the players.
No, I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what the team is, and it's an easy change. Drop Skip, put Brunette on, keep Winks and Ndidi in, right? Take Skip out, put a central attacking mid Brunette on, take Ayew off, or put him in place of Vardy. Pick your poison, not bothered which one, right? And put Mavididi on. There's the changes. There's your team.
I disagree with you.
Again, pick your poison in the 3 middles who you want to change, but
yeah, you see, for me, goalkeeper, obviously, Christensen. Did we miss Vestergaard? If you stuck with O'Coley, I wouldn't be mad. Faze, yeah, look, he does give us the speed, doesn't he? And Ricardo. Those are the 4 at the back. Justin.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one.
For me, Skip and Winks together with Buenete or El Canusas, either of those 2 in there. I'd probably go for Brunette because he's had the experience. Like you say, Fatawu and Mavididi on the 2 wingers. Is that have I got the right number? Have I missed anybody off? I don't think I have I now? And then now I'd start with Ayew up front because I think bringing Vardy on with his pace against a Palace defence that is relying very much just on Ayew.
Chris, what are we doing? What are we doing? Because I was thinking, Ayew, former club, but I don't know, maybe the loan agreement's different, but we're forgetting the most prolific goal scorer.
No, we bought Ayew. He's not on loan.
No. You see, you've even forgot him already, Chris. He's that memorable. You've somehow forgot him. But
Edward.
the most prolific Premier League goal scorer since Adi Akinbaye, Odsonne Edouard. I don't know, maybe his loan agreement, it doesn't allow him to play against Crystal Palace, but surely that's the man.
I had forgotten him. I had totally forgotten him. I think his loan agreement will mean he can't play against Palace. But, look, we've got 3 strikers. We need a spare one in case one gets injured. But that would be my team anyway. Skip instead of Ndidi. Right. So we ran through that quickly, didn't we?
We did. Right. For something you thought we didn't have time to do, we answered it pretty soon.
It wouldn't have been that quick if I'd done it properly and picking the players, but maybe that was the better way of doing it. Man of the match and player ratings. Look, Alan was there. Kate was there. We weren't. So we have a bit of fun in guessing who we want, etc., etc. But we always go with Alan because, like I say, he was there. And he knows. So he went for his man of the match and fair play to Caleb O'Coley. And he gave the team a 7. So Kate went for Winks for man of the match. I went for Buenete and you went for Mavididi. So Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I am absolutely shocked and appalled that Kate didn't go for her favourite Ndidi for man of the match.
Right. Here we go then, Brad. Are you ready, sir?
Yeah, I'm ready as I'll ever be for it.
Here we go. Right, Hermansen.
This was the first time that Madsen made amount of notable saves that we can actually sit here, Chris, and go, by God, if it wasn't for him, it could have been a riot. Because I don't think it was against Fulham, and I don't think it was against Tottenham, but against Villa, all right, a little bit of praise here for Justin. Justin did a right amount of leaning on him to stop Ollie Watkins getting a pure power shot. Otherwise, I think that would have gone that would have gone in. But Madsen made some quality saves. Did nearly throw it all away when he couldn't control a simple pass from Macaulay to him. I don't know why he struggles with that. I don't know why he persists with it, but that's for another day, I guess. I'm going to give him a 7.
Okay,
Very
you
steady,
give him a
very
7.
reliable. Couldn't really do much about the goals, to be honest with you. He was left stranded by his defence for the first one.
I'd forgotten about that mistake. But no, I agree with you. He kept the team in it, and had it not been for that mistake, he may have got my man of the match. But I've given him an 8 because he did keep us in it. So an 8 from me, a 7 from you, Mr. Christensen.
He impresses me more when Mavididi's on the pitch. I think he's very good defensively. He made some very good interceptions, but I think he is crying out for that attacking spark in front of him. He needs somebody he can feed off and work off. And with the greatest respect to RU, who is not being played in this position, and I do feel bad that that we always not have it because we're not having a dig at RU. We're saying he's not played where he's supposed to be. He gets that sapped out of him because RU gets the ball and it goes dead. Because RU is going to get the ball, he's holding it up, admittedly, for the players to get forward, and he's going to try and draw a foul. That's his job. We know that. We were told that. There was no hidden thing about that from Palace fans that we spoke to. And we kind of got that with his age, let's be honest with the greatest respect. We know he's not going to bust a lung to get down the wing and put in crosses like Mavididi does. He has impressed me. He impressed me in his short spell in the dire relegation season under Rodgers. And I was very glad that when he came back from being left out in the cold at Bologna, he didn't say, sod this, I'm off to go play Champions League football. He went, no, I still love it here at Leicester. I still want to make a name for myself here. And if the manager will have me, unlike the last one, I'm willing to put in the effort. I'm going to give him an 8, Chris. I don't think it was his best game, but funny enough, I think he was one that showed real heart and passion in what he did and seemed to be frustrated with the lack of forward play until that 60-odd minutes.
Funny enough, I'm going to go the other way to you this time. I'm going to go 7. Had a good game. He does struggle. And look, when we criticise players, it's not because they're rubbish, but it's because of what's being asked of them. And like with Ayew, as we saw against Tranmere, put him in the striker's role and he got a thunderous shot. I don't think any goalkeeper in the Premier League could have probably got near to that one. The problem with Christensen, and it's a very good point what you may say about Mavididi. Mavididi is very good at getting back and defending. Both wingers are, Mavididi and Fatawu. Ayew isn't.
Yeah.
Because that's not his role. Do you know what I mean? So,
like Harvey Barnes, when he was our winger, he was very good at doing his job, but not the other part of it.
Yeah. So I think what you say quite right. He does look better when Mavididi's there because Mavididi makes him look better. But that's what a team does, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That's why it's a team sport.
Yeah, Chris, did we go something a bit wild here? Did we put Fatawu out on right wing back? Give him some space to run at teams because he doesn't seem to be getting on the right, and I'll talk about how he's rigged. But I'm just throwing it out there, Chris. If you don't want to play Ricardo there, he might as well play someone who likes running on the right.
Yeah, well, controversial. I'll move on from that. Look, man of the match for Alan. Caleb, not the farmer Caleb, but the central defender. Best game of the season that he's had. Well, best game he's had for Leicester.
Well, it's his only game he's had for Leicester minus a couple of parents. But yeah, stand out, very
I'm
solid.
thinking of pre-season as well.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, okay, but you know what I think to them.
Yeah.
Which is it's still fair, from you can only go off what you see of him, and you saw some things that concerned you. Did not look out of place. Looked very, very good. Looked reassured. Made not. I don't think we're going to get to say this option, Chris. I'm going to use this opportunity. Very sexy tackle that he made to stop a certain third goal by Villa. Really, it was a thing of beauty to watch. Got the ball and everything, and it was one of them that left you in awe. In fact, you heard the crowd kind of go, "Oh," and you heard the applause. I think even a few Villa fans might have gone, "Shit, that's their player we've just clapped," but that was really, really good. He was brilliant. He covered, and again, it's a point that armchair jockey made there about Christensen. When if he did lose the ball, he was very quick to recover and make amends for any mistakes made by players in the middle and winning us the ball back. I'm desperate to see him score a goal because I think this lad's got a couple of goals in him if he can get on the end of a couple of corners and crosses. Very, very solid performance. Was definitely in contention to my man of the match, but not to give anything away or give any spoilers. He's not going to get a rating near my man of the match. But I'm gonna give him an 8, Chris. I was very impressed and I was very happy in a way to see him kind of quash the doubt, quash the worry that you and others had about him. And I totally understand why. I can appreciate and get that. But the fact that if that's what we're basing it off, Chris, of how he's going to be for us in defence this season, I'm very confident that our back line isn't going to be the reason we go down.
No, I've got a lot more confidence in him now, having seen that performance. That said, and I know pre-season, I know what you're saying about pre-season. It's all about fitness, blah blah blah. But when we're not looking at the team performance pre-season, I tend to look sometimes at the individual performance because that's easier to judge maybe than the team because they are trying different things and the own goal on his debut didn't help, obviously. But look, I think in a way we kind of miss Vestergaard because
Here we go. The jealousy is really because he took out your love child. If he'd have been paired up with Vestergaard, we'd be here in 9, so you'd be licking his bum, wouldn't you, about him? Because he's replaced your love child. I knew this was coming. Justice for... I knew this.
That's for me.
The truth comes out when he starts talking.
In fairness, I gave it to me. I always give it to you, so I gave it to me. No, what I miss with Vestergaard, and I don't think he gets enough praise for this, is quite often Vestergaard's tackles are very simple, and he'll just stick his foot out at the right time. And I think we just missed that a little bit, but I have given Okoli a 7, and it was his best performance for us so far this season. And we have got Paddy in, sexy football. Vestergaard and Cody won't play unless we have injuries. We'll see. It's a fair point, but who knows? Who knows with this manager? Look, your favourite, Wout Faes.
Yes, he gets a lot of stick from fans at times. I know he puts hearts in mouths and he is a bit erratic at times, but he is very good at not only making his yards back if he presses forward and we lose the ball, but he never shirks his responsibility. I mean, I've never seen a happier player for someone who apparently despised the club and wanted to leave and thinks Leicester's a shithole, according to the Belgian press, the way they made it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did very well, Chris. You got to remember he's a young lad as well. International, does very well. he's going to have a mistake in him because he's not your stand and deliver Steve Walsh, Jerry Taggart, Matt Elliott, Vestergaard style defender. He's going to go and be that adventurous centre forward. He's centre back, sorry. He's going to, well, he could have played centre forward in some of the chances he made for himself last season, didn't he, Chris?
He scored this season, let's be honest.
Yeah, he did. He got the goal against Fulham. Wasn't enough to get us a point, unfortunately, but he has got on the score sheet. Dangerous in both boxes. Admittedly, sometimes he's more of a danger to himself than others in our box. I will say that. I don't think he's too slow for this league, Jockey.
I think he's referring to Vestergaard there.
I'm assuming that there. Just the timing of when the comments come in and when we switch things up. But I do rate him. And I don't think he did much wrong. And you know I like to do this, Chris, and I'm going to be fair because I don't think he did anything to suggest he was any less as good as Coley was, because he made a few tackles himself on the comeback. I'm going to give him an 8.
Give him an 8. Well, I'd written that down before you'd even said it.
It's like you know me that well.
Yeah. I'm going to do exactly what you've done because, look, he's not my favourite. I don't think you can play a Coley and Vestergaard together. I do think you can play a Coley and Cody, and obviously we know you can play Faze and Vestergaard. So I think those are the options there. But Coley and Faze looked well together. Look, he's had worse games for Leicester. Nothing out of the ordinary. And look, I think the fact that I've given him a 7, and I think the fact that I've given Christensen, Okoli, and Faze all 7s in a game that we lost 2-1, I think isn't bad, to be honest.
No, again, like I said, Chris, I think it shows that if we're going to go down this season, it won't be the defence's problem.
Yeah. Now, I got that in, and I said that at that particular time because James Justin.
Yeah, now if there was a player who I kind of feel sorry for, because a bit like AU, he's not being asked to play in a natural fit. Despite having a player that plays comfortably and is an established right back, he is being asked to play on that side. And it can't be because of more flair and pace or anything like that, because I would actually I'm not a betting man, or at least not anymore. But if I was to have a bet between who would win out of a 100-metre dash between him and Ricardo, the fact that we've actually seen Ricardo being pushed up and play right wing under certain managers beforehand would make me suggest that Ricardo's the man you'd back to win the race up and down the pitch.
Yeah.
So whilst I do sympathise with him, and he did make some good interceptions. And again, that Ollie Watkins chance, which at the time was very vital because that could have opened the floodgates had they scored that early. He put the pressure on, lent on him, not enough to give away a foul, but enough to throw him off what he was doing. But I have to be in agreement with you, Chris. We're giving 7s and 8s to the 3 out of the 4 back line. And if you're looking for the weak link in the back line that's maybe causing issues and causing us problems, it's Justin. And I don't know if I'm matching shirt numbers here by saying this, but I'm going to give him a 5. I don't think by any means he was terrible, but he was definitely notably off par compared to the rest of his
Scarily, Brad, I agree with you. I'll give him a 5 as well. Look, and I always pronounce this wrong. Please do forgive me. Faladas. You could, I think he was just saying about playing those 3 of those 4 together, but only with 5 at the back. I was basing it on the team that we've got at the moment, the way that Cooper is putting it out. Yeah, if you play a different formation, then it puts a whole different dynamic on. And yeah, Leicester City women did win. We're going to mention that very briefly at the end. JJ out of his depth, unfortunately, looks lost at times. Agree with JJ. Look, if Christensen isn't being picked, JJ plays at left back.
Oh yeah.
And look, sometimes players, and Cooper does like these players that can play in multiple positions. You know, Look at Winks. Look at try Mavididi as a striker. Ayew can play as a winger as well. That's not his first choice. So he does like these players. And Justin, if you look at his bio on Transfer Market, I think he can play left and right back. I just think he's better on the left. Now, as I said earlier, that's fine, but then you play your best right back at right back. You don't say, well, he's a 9 at left back, so I'm going to chip him over to right back, because at right back he suddenly drops down to a 7, while you've still got Ricardo that's an 8. So, I think it has to be a case of, look, it's a long season. It's a long season. If we have some good cup runs and we're going to be up against it, we're going to need to change things around, and players are going to get banned. I think there's going to be a lot of yellow cards. I think we're going to see quite a few bans for Leicester this season. So you've got to kind of mix it up. But to me, he's not really. Stick him on the left if Christensen's not playing.
Give him comfort to where he is. Go for it.
And that's why I think we've both gone sort of 5s for him. Skip. Skippy, the bush kangaroo.
I know we're in opposite camps of over who we'd pick alongside Winks. For someone who played alongside Harry Winks or trained with him week in, week out for many years at Spurs, I know he's 23, but that he was a part of that first team for a long time, at least training with them. For the understanding they should have, they look like two players that had never met each other, didn't even know each other, and knew nothing about each other. I don't know what was more frightening. His inability to create anything from defensive midfield, or his hairline keep receding further back minute by minute that he played. He seemed to lose more hair as the game went on. I'm not going to sit here, and I know we've jested about it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, "I'll bash the price tag we paid for him. What a waste of money," or anything like that. Because I know some people will, but tongue in cheek or literal, some people actually will be serious about it. It's not his fault we paid that money for him, or we valued that he was worth paying that money for. But he looked like somebody who didn't know anybody on that pitch, and he should have that partnership, if anything, should have stood out like a country mile and been like, wow, playing 3 isn't the right way, but move out. We should all be here comprehensively saying indeed he gets out of the team, because them two linked up well together. I almost, until he got booked, Chris, I almost forgot he was playing 3.
Whoa. All right. Get back. Stand back, everybody. I've got this.
Sorry, but someone tell me something he did that was useful, apart from being harshly given a clean tackle as a free kick that ultimately cost us a goal. That isn't his fault. That's just shite officials. And don't even ask me about the officials, because if I can give negatives, I'd get negatives. They were awful.
Okay, let me just take you up on the point. Where was Harry Winks last season?
In the Championship.
With?
Leicester.
Thank you very much. Where was...
Are we stating the obvious here? Because let me get, Premier League with Spurs. They spent 12 months apart.
And the season and the season before that, where was Harry Winks?
Both at Tottenham.
No, he was on loan.
All right, wow, sorry. Sampdoria, wasn't it?
It's been 2, possibly slightly more, 2 seasons since they've played together.
Oh, mate, come on. You're
no.
You got him as a love child. Just because you got the same amount of hair as him now. Doesn't mean
I wish I had the amount of hair that he's got. Believe you me. No. I'm sorry. Players change, players move on, and I don't think you can say that they should immediately fit in together. I would hope they rediscover that bond, but Winks was playing a lot more than Skip, I believe, when they were both at Spurs.
Probably was, no doubt.
And I mean, Armchair, he's not agreeing with you at all. He says insult.
Look, maybe it was a case of the old, what I said earlier. Too many of them spoiled it because none of them could play a good game. Because trust me, it's not going to get any better for the other two in that position. It don't get any better for the other two. Trust me, that was the area we were the most weakest in.
Yeah, no, and I would agree. But I just think 3 is extremely harsh. Armchair says Skip nearest thing to Neil Lennon since Neil Lennon did more than Winks insult. Well, I like the cut of that man's jib. Armchair always said he was a good judge. No, I mean, I can't. Yes, the midfield was awful, and they were getting in each other's way because you've got 3 defensive midfielders in there. So I've given him a 5. And I think, like I say, it was almost a 6, but I did go for a 5 in the end. I think I don't think he was that bad. Winks. But can I just say, by the way, everybody, let's just not get too taken with this because football is about opinions.
Yeah, and again, the reason I'm giving these ratings, Chris, is more to do with how Cooper asked them to play.
Yeah. Oh, we've said this, didn't we?
Yeah.
We said this with, Justin is a better player than a 5 when he's on the left.
Yeah, and I'm no doubt, I have no doubt that that when he's only got one person to help him defend, and he's not trying to clamber his way through 400 central defensive midfielders like Cooper wanted to put on the pitch, I'm sure Oliver Skip, if he plays against Palace, will probably have a great performance when he's got Harry Winks and they've reconnected a bit more. But on that performance,
looking at this game, remember?
Yeah. But here's the thing. I'm now going to have a little bit of a rant. And I feel horrible saying it, Chris. Because some say that I'm a mystic guru. Others say I'm full of knowledge. All I know is I'm called Brad and I called it. Right? Because, do you remember, I've brought this up a few times. When we was in the Premier League, my Spurs mate, who you have had on the channel, Ryan, if you remember, you had him on once when we first started, I think. He used to beg to me, please let us have Maddison. We'll pay you the money for him, and you can have Harry Winks. And I kind of tongue-in-cheek said, because it was a few years ago, so he was only 22, 23 maybe at the time, Winks. I said, I will take Harry Winks the day we step into the Championship again. Again, that guru. Maybe I just knew that's the only way we'd ever get a player like
All your balls are made of crystal.
Yeah, well, something else if you ask my exes, but we won't talk about that. It's too graphic in detail. You said it as well, Chris. You have to admit it. Feels like one of them players that matches that tag of too good for the Championship, not quite good enough for the Premier League. And I hope I'm proven wrong. Again, we're talking 3 games into it. And this is probably his first proper chance to get blooded into a season where he's going to play most of the games this season for a squad. He didn't get that opportunity at Tottenham, and that's why he went out on loan and then ultimately joined us, over the last 2 seasons. Yeah. So I'm not judging him. People got to remember, this isn't me rating him this season and how I think he's crap and he's going to be awful. No. This is me rating him on his in-game performance. The one thing he has in common with Skip isn't just the fact that they both play for Spurs, it's the fact that he gets a free. If I've got to be harsh to one, Chris, I'm going to be harsh to them all. So you might as well put the same number next to the next bloke.
Well, I've gone 5 for Winks. And I think the problem with Winks is when you hit a certain level, unless you call Jamie Vardy, you're not allowed to drop below that level.
Yeah.
And he was my player of the season last season. He was my purchase of the season last season. Not just for Leicester, but for the whole Championship. he was the transfer of the season.
He was.
10 million, amazing. But when you set yourself that standard, and I used to call him the Duracell Bunny last season, because he was every bloody where, you know, different leagues, yeah, horses for courses. But when you set yourself up to that level, any dip below it, and you go, oh, he's not as good as he was, you know. So, unfortunately, I think he's a victim of his own success. But I've given him a 5. I'm obviously conscious of the time and understanding you must go soon. So we'll try and move on a bit quicker for you. Oh my God, Jordan, are you?
It is not his fault he got played out of position, but I'm just going to rip the band-aid off. He's not a winger. 3. Apart from winning those free kicks, Chris, he wasn't able to do the job that he's not able to do. He's a 32-year-old striker playing on the wing. 3.
I've given him 4, so we're not 3, 4. We're not.
And that one really is a 3 or 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like I would say I'd give him a 4 out of sympathy for the fact that he's been forced to play there when he's not. But on the performance,
but again, against Tranmere, we don't do this obviously because it was the Caribou Cup. But if it was against Tranmere, I'd have probably given him an 8, to be honest with you. But we're talking about this game, so it gets a 4 from me, and that's because not his fault, but it's not. He can play that position, but it's not his strongest position. Here we go. Shall I write 3 down for you?
Make it a full house for the central defensive midfield, mate. Look, he tried. He tried to break away. He tried to help out in the attack sense, but like you said, Chris, you can't put Vardy in goal and tell him to do as well as he does up front. It's just not going to work. And as much as he was maybe able to do that a bit better in the Championship and get away with mistakes, he got tore to pieces. They passed it around him. I love his passion. I love his effort to go. And I think he gets criticised because he was out of position and trying to do it. But if he wasn't, Chris, he was out there. But it's a 3. One of them where he tried, but nothing worked.
Yeah. I'm going 4, and I was tempted to meet you at 3.
I don't think he deserves the criticism people are giving him because he tried to do something that was clearly said. Look, out of the 3 of you, Will, if you can and get the opportunity, try and get forward with Vardy and Ayew.
It was getting more forward, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, so you've got to give him a little bit of credit. He was trying to do two roles, really.
Yeah, but no, I
give him a 4, Chris. I'd be fair.
I'm giving him a 4, but I'm just thinking I've given Ayew a 4. Yeah, no, they both get 4. Right. Next up, Mr. Fatawu.
This is very much a learning season for him. He's going to learn a lot, and he needs to learn it quickly. And I don't like to rush players to learn it because he's a young lad, but he needs to learn quickly because he's done a lot of frustrating things. And I like to see the fact that he gets frustrated. I do like to see him being frustrated. All right, sometimes it's with teammates, but sometimes it's with himself. Sometimes he's frustrated with himself that he's not being able to do the things that he wants to do. And that will come. That will come with maturity and experience. And this, what we said earlier in the show, maybe this week extra on the training ground. Again, unless he's getting called up. I don't know the internationals. I think it's like watching paint dry unless it's a tournament.
I've no idea. I'm not bothered either.
Yeah. So if he's there, it's another week for him to maybe get used to the Premier League and work on things. Tried his heart out again when his best friend on the left came on, looked a bit better. I'm going to give him a 6, though, Chris.
Give him a 6. Alrighty. It reminds me, and please bear with me. Don't jump down my throat when I say this straight away. But it reminds me a little bit of Paul Gascoigne. Now, I don't mean the Paul Gascoigne that scored against Scotland for England. I don't mean the Paul Gascoigne that, played for Napoli or the Paul Gascoigne that played for Newcastle. I mean the Paul Gascoigne that played for Spurs. Not played for Spurs, that played for Burnley. right? Now, that
Could
was
at
at the
least be a bit
time.
kinder to him and say when he played for Middlesbrough.
But no, when he played for Burnley, because I lived in Burnley, took my sons. That was when my sons were getting into football, and I took them to watch it. And he still had the brain, if you like, the football brain. And the problem was that the rest of the team didn't.
Yeah.
And so he would play a ball into absolutely nowhere because nobody was there, because they weren't keeping up with him. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? And
No, 100%.
I think Abdul is that way as well. I think he is so. I know he's younger and what have you, but he's so far advanced in. Like, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and the teammates are going, "Whoa, give us a chance to catch up with you," sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I think he needs to sometimes just look ahead more, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. And last season, what him and Ndidi had, because he was playing that role, and okay, we're saying he can't do it this season, and he certainly did it last season, Wilf. The runs and the Fata would have that ball and he'd play it down that right, and you're thinking, who the fuck has he played that to? And suddenly, indeed, he would come through from nowhere and get it and cross it in.
Yeah.
But that was under Enzo and the way Enzo played. It's not working this season.
Well, when the changes were made, though, Chris, we saw them magic underlaps happening, and he was playing the ball into him, wasn't he? So maybe it's just maybe look at that. Cooper, just look at it, and maybe we get a little bit more of the fatter of the championship. I don't know. Maybe we live in a crazy world where simple isn't actually that simple, but it.
Like I say, that like Armchair says, he's shocked he has no time on his ball. He's got to get used to the Premier League,
Well, we've seen his defending skills, and they're top notch. Like I said, Chris, if he's not going to play a right back, who knows? Maybe.
May well. Look, and this next guy,
on him.
if we could bottle his enthusiasm, we'd win every single game. But what sort of game did he have here?
I think he had a typical mid-season Jamie Vardy game, in the fact that Jamie Vardy has always, whether we like to admit it or not, Chris, has always had a period, and it usually happens annoyingly around the Christmas busy period time for us, if you look back at his history, where he's not ineffective, but he goes to that stage where people come on here and other Leicester things and whatever, and they go, Vardy's not getting the supply. Vardy really didn't do much himself, really. But Vardy's Vardy. He'll run back and try and get the ball. But when you talk about utilising players and getting the best out of him, again, didn't really spring to life until he had the support up with him. So not entirely his fault. I'm not, and people might say, well, Brad, what more can Vardy do? It's just Vardy. But also, when you've got a player like Vardy, he has his own problem. And the problem is also a pro about Vardy. He does, the problem is Vardy don't get much of the ball. And he's never had much of the ball. But when he does have the ball, you're almost backing him to score every chance. And sometimes we find ourselves going, that second chance he had against Tottenham, which could have inevitably won us the game, years ago, you'd have put your mortgage on it and doubled your money. We even saw it 2 seasons ago, Chris. He was missing them chances. You'd have been a poor man sometimes backing Vardy to take them chances. And yes, he still has it in his locker to do it. We know he does. He does ping them in. He scored a few last season for us. He was our top goal scorer. But he scored a few Vardy-esque goals, if you will. That one notably I remember against Blackburn, where he caught it practically on the volley and ripped the net open. That was one of them. He did. But he didn't pull up trees. And again, it's his time in his career where he's at, it's more understandable. He's not going to pull up trees, and we can't rely on him to be the one that's pulling up trees and running the team ragged.
Yeah.
Having said all that, I'm going to give him a 6.
As indeed have I. So we're both agreed on 6. But we'll quickly run through these and we'll go through the substitutes in the order that they came on. Mavididi was the first. Oh, can I just say, I don't think we've ever given a goal scorer as low points as 3 and 4 before. But hey ho, that's Indeedy. Steffi Mavididi.
My man of the match completely changed the game. This man has to be the first name on the team sheet come next, not this Saturday, next Saturday. Hands down, changed the game. For the second time, Chris, he's come on the pitch and changed the game, injected life, showed the crowd and hopefully Cooper, what this team can do if you give them the powers to do it, and that's be aggressive and attacking. 9. 9 out of 10.
9.
Phenomenal. Completely turned the game on its head, Chris.
I'm giving him an 8.
Well, I have to have him stand out as my man of the match. It's that's why I was contemplating giving him an 8, but then I actually thought a few impressive performances deserved the 8. So
yeah, I'm sorry, I've just replied to your comment and I didn't mean to shout. I got capitals on. I do apologise.
Right.
Okay. So after Mavididi, we've got El Canusos.
A little bit harsh to say this, but the least impressive of the subs that came on. But again, added flair, got us forward. Yes, his shots got blocked, but at least he was trying, Chris. I'm gonna give him a 7. 6 or 7. I'm gonna give him the edge because we don't do halves, and if I'm thinking about him being close to a 7, I think he is a 7. I give a 7. Heart, passion, tried. Considering we only signed him a few hours, but before day before the game started. Came off the bench
again. Well, I've gone 7 again, so there we go. Buenete, I'll go first with this one because he's my man of the match, so I'm going to give him 9. If I'm giving Hermansen 8 and I'm giving Mavididi 8, Buenete 9. I know he came on with 22 minutes plus stoppage time to go. He obviously scored the goal, so that always adds a point 2 on, although it probably didn't with Ndidi. Hang on. Did I? No, he didn't score the goal, did he? Yes, he did. Ndidi got the assist. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was it. Ndidi got the assist. To my mind, yeah. All right, we've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous. To hardly any, no attacking midfielders on, to having all the attacking midfielders on. I'm surprised that we didn't give a call to Chelsea, asking them to send Dewsbury all back up so we could stick him on for 5. I thought he did really well. I'm impressed with this guy. I can't believe Brighton have let him go. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to play him against Brighton, but he gets a 9 for me, my man of the match.
Yeah, I mean, for obvious reasons, the kind of the vice versa thing that with Mavididi, I'm going to give him an 8, Chris. Yeah, because I had to choose between them, and I just think the effect that Mavididi had on it is the reason he was my man of the match. But the effect this young lad has, mate, did you see the way he celebrated his goal as well? It weren't like a normal, I'm a loney, I don't care, I want to play well, score goals. He was chuffed a bit. He was so good, and he really riled the crowd up. He was pumping fists in the air. He was, come on. And if you see that from a player in the crowd, or you're watching it like we do on our streams, Chris, you think, yeah, actually, fuck it. Even though I've been moaning for 70 minutes, all of a sudden I feel like we can actually get a result here, and he gave us that belief. And obviously it didn't happen, but yeah, dead 8, mate. And like I said, I picked Mavididi to give the 9 to, otherwise he would have.
No, that's fine. Cordova Reed, did he come on? 89 minutes. 89 minutes.
I'm just going to give an NA. I'm going to give an NA because I think he chucked him on a bit like Casey. He chucked him on to give an extra body to throw up at them. Going gun ho for that 7-8 minutes that were left. Yeah. It'd be unfair to give him a rating of a low caliber because he was just a throw everything. Him and McAteer, Chris, they're both NAs, and I'll wrap them both up in one and a lovely bow for you because they were the kitchen sink.
Yes.
I think that's the best way to describe them as substitute appearance. They might not have done anything. They weren't expected to do anything, but threw the bodies onto in the hope that something would.
No, I agree. I don't think we can give either of them any points, and I think that's that again. That's not them. That's just totally
Yeah.
the fact of that. All right, then. This is going to be interesting. Cooper.
You know what? You could sit here and say, well, give him credit. He changed it up and got him going. He waited till we were 2-0 down. And like you said, Stevie Wonder could have seen that we needed to change it at half time. I hope I'm not giving many of these this season. It's a big fat 0 from me.
Really?
Because at least against Fulham, he made changes to try and change things up, and it was just a bad day at the office. Anything and everything. He tried, and it just didn't work. We can have games like that. I can sit and go, Fairs didn't work, but we gave it all we could. It was just one of them days, and I can give him a 4 and a 5 for managing that game. I can't say, well, it's your fault they didn't play well. It wasn't his fault that we were passing the ball to white shirts that game. And in this case, Chris, it was glaringly obvious he fucked up, and he left it way too late to fix it.
Well, I haven't quite gone that low, but I have gone with a 2 because I think he cocked it up completely. And all right, it's good that you can see your mistakes, and it's good that you do think about it. But how many times are we going to do that? Because he did that against Spurs. I got it wrong, so I put it right. He did it against Palace. Not Palace, sorry. He did it against who we just played, Villa. Well, how long are you going to do this? And like I said, for fuck's sake, we're at home. Throw a pair of balls, Steve, and go for the attack. Don't go defensive at home. Otherwise, we'll just get Brendan back, please. And let him,
And Chris, like we both said during the watch along at half time, we can't keep doing that. And it proved because Villa got the second goal that Tottenham didn't, and it was too much. We cannot keep doing this. We need to be doing that to the 2 and having that as a 0 and using our impetus to get ourselves 1-0 up.
Yeah, no, totally. Very quickly, right, so Hermansen, 7, and I'll read yours out first, mine, and then I'm going to throw in Jordan's just for the fun of it. 7, 8, Jordan went 8. Christensen, 8 for you, 7 for me, Jordan went 5. Akoli, 8 for you, 7 for me, went 7. Faze, 8 for you, 7 for me, went 5. Justin.
I hate you, Jordan. Get out.
I thought I was going to get that comment on Christian, to be honest with you. Wow. Justin, you went 5, I went 5, Jordan went 5. Skip, you went 3, I went 5, Jordan went 6. Winks, you went 3, I went 5, Jordan went 7. AU, 3, 4.
What?
And he
whoa. Did he watch it with his head on upside down? He gave Winks a 7.
He gave Winks a 7.
Get off the drugs, Blackwell. They're not for you, mate. They're not for you.
At the heart of everything for City, he got himself on the ball often, moved it left, right, in between the lines, while also mopping up to cut out Villa attacks. A captain's performance without the armband. You know what they say about people watching different matches?
Kids, this is why you don't do drugs. Because he must have dropped himself an E or something halfway through the game and just saw something we clearly didn't. Because,
well, you say that. You gave AU 3, I gave him 4, he gave him 6.
Is he on the bastard payroll at Palace and Spurs or something and they're giving them sympathy points for fucking playing for us? Jordan Blackwell, you know what? Go and rate rugby. You might be a better host. You might be better host.
But opinions, Brad, opinions. But
yeah,
with
well, like an arsehole, he's got one. Sorry, what?
No. I knew I'd get this reaction. This is why I did it. Indeed, you gave him 3. I gave him 4. I don't know if I dare tell you this.
You're gonna give him. If you give him a 7, I'm gonna bleat. I'm gonna swear.
No, he gave him a 4 as well, Brad. You're all right.
Oh,
Fataru, you gave him 6, me 5. He gave him a 5. Vardy 6, and he gave him a 5. Mavididi 9, 8. He gave him a 7. Canusa. Sorry. I'm glad you're off cam. I bet you got steam coming out of your ears, haven't you?
Well, I am vaping, but yeah. That's it, mate.
Canusa's 7, he gave him a 5. Brunetti 8, 9, he gave him a 7. So a lot of them he was right. Just a couple there I would argue with. I'd argue with his Christensen.
Yeah,
Possibly even his phase. But he did get it right with obviously Wings, but we did get it right with Ndidi and Justin. Our 2 bad ones he also came up with. Brad, look, one of us is going to be
try again next week.
One of us is doing this in our sleeping bag here. I didn't mean it to go on this long, but there we go. Appreciate you coming on, mate.
No worries. I was just taking a nap there. It's about my bedtime.
I do apologise. Do you know something? I think we have some of the longest answers you've ever given there, but I do appreciate it. Brad, I will let you go. We'll have that chat tomorrow. It's nothing urgent, so I'm just going to run a couple of things past you, so we can do that tomorrow on Facebook. Thank you so very, very much, mate. Brad is going to be everybody. There's no prediction league this week because it's an international weekend. And then Brad is going to be taking over of the watch-alongs for the next few weeks while I'm having to go to Australia and I'm really struggling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it must be such a drag to go all the way to Australia for 4 weeks, mate. Shrimp on the barbie and everything, for 10 tenants and Fosters, mate. Talk about the
They hate Fosters over there.
No, they hate the fact that they do. They really do. It's so funny.
I was supposed to do a pub last time I went there. There's a thing on the thing that said it was about £2. Pint of piss.
Yeah, they say it's kangaroo's piss, don't they? Over there?
Yeah.
It is.
Look, mate, LTID TV 2 on YouTube. Full-time Focus. Is it on X?
Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you call it, yeah. Go over there and follow Brad. And thank you very much. So we'll have a chat tomorrow. Take care. Yeah. Go and get yourself into bed.
Cheers. Take care, everybody.
Cheers, Brad.
Cheers, mate.
Oh, thanks so much to Brad there. As always, excellent perspective. My God, this was a hell of a long show. We did have the bit for Sol Bamba at the start, but thanks for sticking with it, guys. We've pretty much been around the same viewers all the way through. Really, really do appreciate it. Tomorrow, you want to be here tomorrow because we've got the Let's Talk Leicester. And it's me, Kate, and Craig. And I think me and Kate might just be falling out. Yes. She doesn't agree with me on a lot of these. She certainly doesn't agree with me about Ndidi. So I'm looking forward to telling her what Jordan said. But I will see you all tomorrow at 7 for that. Thanks to everybody that's been in the chat armchair and everybody else that's been in. Really do appreciate it. Wayne was in earlier. Joe, John was in. Thank you so very, very much. Geordie, of course, as well. Everybody else, too many to name, but thank you very much indeed. If you remember, it's $1.99 to be a member, and you can join us on the chat. And just to say, that's what Luke did. Luke was a member and he's now a co-presenter. We've got 2 new co-presenters joining us after the holiday. When I get back from Australia, we've got 2 new co-presenters coming on doing the show with me as well. Don't forget to like the video. It really does help the channel. And if you're new, subscribe and click that notification bell, and then you will never, ever miss another show at all. As our next show, 7 p.m. tomorrow, which is the Let's Talk Leicester debate show. Meanwhile, this has been LTID TV. I've been Chris, and I will be back. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.